All right, for the recording. Welcome back. We are Nagarjuna investigators. This is February 12th, 2025. Let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. And see them here with you. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion. Their wisdom radiates from them. That beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize how the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. Deep in our hearts, we know this is possible. Studying with Arya Nagarjuna, we're getting glimpses of how it's possible. And so I invite you to grow that wish into a longing. And that longing into an intention. And that intention maybe even into a determination. And with that sense of determination, turn your mind back to that precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please, please teach us that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, four lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamnirya Tayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that we do in sharing in this investigation and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that we do in sharing in this investigation and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that we do in sharing in this investigation and the rest, may all beings reach their total awakening for the benefit of every single other. All righty. So let's do our usual get connected with Nagarjuna with his first couple of verses, and then see where we land. Janet, you're at the top of my screen here. Will you give us the opening, please?
Here I've made a song for you on the very root of the middle way, which I call wisdom. In the language of India, this text is called Prajna Nama Mula Madhyamaka Karika. In the language of Tibet, it is known as Uma Sewe Secular Jepa Sherab. In English, we call it wisdom, a song on the root of the middle way. I bow down to Manjushri, the glorious gentle voice, in his guise as a teenage boy.
Thank you. And Joanna, 1.1, please.
I bow down to the highest of teachers, to the fully enlightened one who teaches us to reach that peace where our fantasies about how things exist are put to a final rest.
I needed to hear that. And Roxana, 1.2.
Yes, thank you. I bow to the one who taught us that things happen in dependence. Nothing ends and nothing begins. Nothing stops, but nothing ever lasts forever. Nothing comes and nothing goes. No two things are different, nor are two things the same.
Janet, back to you, 1.3.
Nothing grows from itself. Nothing grows from something else. Nothing grows from both. And nothing grows without a cause. There's nothing at all that grows at all.
At all? At all?
Not the way we think in
Right.
molecules and sequences and Big Bang
Yeah.
and evolution.
Right.
A lot of our interpretation, our ability to interpret things, and then how we interpret it, and then that's driven by our past action. So we're like basically slaves of that until we change things,
Right.
which might take a long time.
Right. Gosh, it's tiresome, isn't it? Someday we'll read that verse and we'll go, oh, it's such a relief. Instead of reading that verse and going, that's why we're investigating. So then chapter 1 was about all the different ways that in our misunderstanding our world, we believe that cause and effect works. And the Arya points out that it sounds like he points out that no, cause and effect doesn't work. I mean, what he points out is all those causes and effects relationships that we think are happening have no nature, which we're coming to understand means that's how they appear to work in the way that they do. Because if they had their nature in them, from them, making them work in the way we think they do, it would be inconsistent with how we experience things. They can't actually work in the way that we think they work. So when he says they have no nature, they have no nature of being or functioning the way we experience them to be or function, as coming in them, from them, the way we experience them. But when I hear the words, they have no nature, like still automatically I feel, the shift in my mind that means, oh, he means they don't really exist. And it's that he's wanting us to recognize and struggle with. right? To immediately pull it back. And sooner or later, we'll stop falling off that cliff. We'll catch it, right? We'll help other people catch it. So he went through causes, all the different kinds of causes. And says, look how you can show yourself. They can't have any nature of being the causes that and cause result relationship that we think that they have. And then our Kachik says, yeah, but Nagarjuna, like I do things. That can't be true because I do things. And our Kachik arises out of that, hearing him say causes have no natures and thinking that that means there's no such thing as causes. And then our reaction to that, if there's no such thing as causes, how do I ever do anything? And so he addresses the going and coming, because in order to do anything, we have to go somewhere, right? Even when we are doing something, not physically going anywhere, we are still going, right? And then coming. And he addressed that in terms of breaking it down moment by moment and seeing if what we think is this thing going can really be happening in the way that we think. And his implication in talking about walking is in anything that we do. We think there's this sequence of things happening that are making something else happen. And in that chapter, we investigated and he showed us the conclusion that there is no going, there's no goer, and there's no gone that has any nature. And again, my mind goes off the cliff of what? How can that be? And our Kachik says, what was chapter 3? The heaps, right? Was it the heaps? Come on, chapter 3. The powers. But wait, Nagarjuna, how can there be no goer, going, gone? When I experience myself doing that, I see, hear, smell, taste, touch, think. So there must be a goer going, because there's a seer seeing and a hearer hearing. And he went through the powers using seeing as the example to investigate what's really happening when we are seeing something. Can we pin it down to happening in the way that we believe it's happening? And he shows us again, I think his argument here was like, what comes first, the seer or the seen? And then he said, do it with your other powers as well. So we really understand, increase our understanding of the absurdity of what we think we're doing when we see something. It doesn't seem so absurd, right? I'm looking at you miraculously through a little box in a little square. So his conclusion, no, you know, those sense powers, they have no nature. And again, Shirani's mind goes, no nature? What? But Buddha taught that I'm made up of the 5 heaps. The first of the heap is physical form. And in order for there to be heaps, especially physical form heap, there has to be the sense powers with which to experience the heap of form. Come on, those sense powers have to exist. Why is our mind insisting they have to exist? Because we heard him say they don't exist when he said they have no nature. But that's not what he said. That's not what he meant, right? It is what he said, but it's not what he meant. So he looked at physical form in terms of the form as a result of causes, right? Using this same investigation that he did in chapter 1 about checking for the relationship between causes and results, right? Does the cause the result, or does the result actually cause the cause? Because until the result has happened, the cause isn't the cause for the result. But it doesn't mean that the cause isn't something. It just isn't the cause yet. And so at what point do these sense powers make the form? Well, they don't make the form. The form is there. We see the form, and then we know the form, and then I'm experiencing, right? Me experiencing that form is how we think it happens. And he says, well, that would have to be a result. And what's the cause? And we go, oh, I see. It can't be caused by what I think it's caused, would be his conclusion. So that form doesn't have the nature, doesn't have its own nature. He doesn't say that. He says it has no nature at all, which is really true, right? It's more accurate to be able to say form, feeling, discriminating, all the other factors, all the different consciousnesses, they have no natures at all, so that they can be the form we experience, the feeling we experience. But they are happening. If they had their own natures, they couldn't happen. They would be impossible. All right. So we go into form, and he says, do that for all the rest of your heaps as well, which was harder. And we did it. Investigation of the parts of a person. So then when we heard the conclusion, so look, all those heaps have no nature. And Cheek must have said, that can't be true, because Buddha taught the heap of form is made up of those 5 great elements. And that those elements are the building blocks of our physical world. And Buddha wouldn't have taught it if it wasn't true. And in order to be the building blocks of something, those building blocks have to have some nature so that they can be all put together, to come out as the thing that's there. And Nagarjuna said, well, let's check out that element of space. He went to the hardest one. And he said, he used, let's find its defining characteristics, its defining qualities. Meaning, how do we recognize a basic element of physical form when we experience it? The defining qualities. Does it have those? It must have those defining qualities in it, because they're the qualities that are unique to it that make it it. Space has unique qualities that makes it space. And if it didn't have those unique qualities, it wouldn't be space. It would have some other unique qualities. It would be something else, like the unique qualities of solidity that makes something earth element that can be put together and create the quality of form, strength, solidity. They must have something in them that defines them, not in the words define, but separates them from something else. And so he goes, well, let's go looking for those defining characteristics that they would have to have in them in order to be it. Let's find those defining characteristics in space. As I hear myself saying this, it's like, well, of course you're going to find the defining qualities in space when you go looking for space, because that's what makes space space. And he's going to say, yeah, but does that mean there's space there with defining characteristics, even if you're not there thinking of it or perceiving it? And what does our mind go? Of course space is there without me. Of course Earth is out there without me. And his argument was, well, how do you know if you're not there to experience? How do you know Earth is there if you're not there to experience it? It's like, well, because it's always there when I get back. Yeah, but, right, you can't confirm that it's there when you're not there. I mean, we always have Earth, right? That's why this is so hard. We can't even imagine a moment of time when we're not so grossly or subtly aware of having an earth element or a water element or a fire element. So it's slippery to prove it to ourselves in this theoretical way. If you're not experiencing space, does space have the defining characteristics of space if nobody's aware of it? And you just couldn't establish it, could you? But if it had its defining characteristics in it, from it, we could never not be aware of it. And then it's like, well, that's really our experience. We're never not aware of it. So it must have its nature in it. And Nagarjuna says that is in proof. It's not true that we're always, it is true that we always are aware of it, but that doesn't make it true that its nature is in it. And one of the ways we can investigate that is, like, does everybody mean the same thing by the defining characteristics of space? We think they do, but do we ever know whether somebody understands the words we use or the feelings we share? I mean, technically not. And it'll leave us feeling really, really isolated if we stay in that space. Nobody really understands what I say. But it's true, right? And we never really understand what the other person says. It's kind of a miracle when we think we do. So why are we going there? My heap of form does so exist because it's made up of elements. Buddha said so. And Nagarjuna, is he saying, well, Buddha was mistaken? I don't think so. Is our material heap made up of elements? Yes. But why?
Because
we
of
made it.
the stock
Yeah.
answer.
Right.
Because coming from our past actions.
Right. Which is a good thing, right? Anyway, let's look at the end of chapter 5. If you can't find the defining characteristics in the thing, then how can you say the thing is it? Then he talked about functioning things. Because those elements should all be functioning things. But space, we understand, is not a functioning thing. And yet it's an element that's not a functioning thing. And, it's like he's showing us again that one of the defining qualities of elements is that they function. And well, what about space? Right? How it doesn't function, but it's an element. But you say it's an element. Well, let's be consistent here. So his conclusion, he doesn't actually use the word they have no nature. He says, as such, space is neither a functioning thing nor an entity which exists but performs no function. It's neither something to be defined nor a definition, and all the other 5 elements are the same as well. Not functioning things, not functioning things, not something to be defined and not the definition. So what are they? We know the punchline. Ripening results of past kindness. But can we get to the punchline directly? Like, not yet. We have to apply it. And his conclusion, those of lesser intellect cannot see the peace of putting to rest what they think they see. They hold the view that things can only exist and that they can never exist. So he's pointing out that until we get it right, we're in one of the 2 extremes. Either things exist the way they seem to, or if somebody shows us that they can't exist in that way, they don't exist at all, right? And I still find myself flopping into that. They can't exist at all, which is absurd because here is everything. Okay? And then we pull it back. And when we put to rest, things in them from them are impossible. Things not at all are impossible. We're in the middle way. And then somewhere recently, I read that once you're in the middle way, the two extremes are revealed as not existing at all. There is no middle way. Really, when you get to middle way, there is no middle way because there's no two extremes anymore. There just is, right? And it's like when we're in the just is, that's the piece of having put to rest this me, right? That's such a struggle. All right. So no goer, going, gone, no heap, no elements. I missed one. What does our Kachik say that took us to chapter 6? We did chapter 6, didn't we? Oh no, we're on to chapter 6. So what does Kachik say to there's no elements neither function nor don't function nor are defined nor define themselves? No elements at all? Come on, Nagarjuna. What is it then that makes me have mental afflictions? If there's no elements, then there's no forms. That means there's no things in my world. And then if there's no things and things that happen to me in my world, why in the world do I get angry, upset, depressed, jealous, hurt? You know, why do I have feelings if there's no elements and no heaps and no causes and no goer, going, gone? You know, Nagarjuna must be going, come on, you guys, right? And he's only on chapter 6, but he very sweetly helps us to investigate in the sense of desire, right? He means any of the mental afflictions. And when we have a upset state of mind, there's something that we've experienced that we're blaming for the upset, isn't there? You know, usually an outer thing or person, but it could even be a thought that disturbs our mind. But still, we're talking about there's the subject side, me, who's upset, and there's the object, whatever it was, that triggered the upset. And our misunderstanding makes us blame the object for the upset that we feel. So he doesn't address the upset, he addresses desire. You know, probably wisely, because we are beings in a desire realm, meaning beings whose seeds are creating a desire realm, which means like our underlying motivation is to want, whether we want something or we want to avoid something, we're still in this state of desire. So he uses this very basic we'll call it an emotion, but it's a mental state that motivates us to act. So when we say, well, it can't be true that there's no heap of form made up of those 5 elements, Nagarjuna, because I feel I have mental afflictions towards those things. And how could I have a mental affliction towards something that doesn't exist? So he says, let's look at desire. So let's look at desire. Let's see what he has to say. Come on, computer. Sorry, I can't get all of 6.12 on my screen, but I'll move it up as you read. So Janet, will you start us out again, please?
If there were to exist one who did not feel the desire prior to the desire itself, then based on this, they would possess it. The desire would have to exist since there would exist someone who felt the desire. If there were none who felt the desire, how could there be any desire itself? If there were none who felt a desire, how could there be any desire there?
So that's the essence of where this chapter is going to go. You remember doing this? I do. Because I remember being so puzzled by this first, right? All the rest of it makes sense, but this one, if there were to exist one who did not feel desire prior to the desire itself, then based on this, they would possess it. What would they possess? Possess means to have, to own. If there's a me there before I have desire, what's the it I'm possessing? It should be the desire I possess. Like I have it packed in a drawer somewhere. I'm not experiencing it. But I have to have it in order to experience it. Is that what he's saying?
And you need to have the seeds. They'll ripen. You don't know where or how they will ripen. They're
Yeah,
just stored in probably in the foundation consciousness. They're there,
the desire.
but
And
you don't
so,
have the awareness. Yeah,
right. So the desire is already there, whether you're feeling it or not.
until it ripens.
See the
That's the
slipperiness?
And they're trying to possess the thing they desire. The it is the thing they desire.
Right,
You know, the princess wants the prince. That Disney parable.
right, right. Even before the prince is there, right? She wants the prince.
But according to our past actions, so that means that those are the seeds that we have for desire, right?
Right.
Because
So what?
I don't
Go
want
ahead.
a prince.
You already have your prince.
I already have a prince, right?
So does that mean you don't want him anymore?
Of course.
Of course you still want him.
Yes, of course. I mean, but I'm not looking for, I don't have the
You're not
desire
looking for a new one.
All right. Great example, Janet.
At the time when we were discussing this chapter, I really liked Lama Christie's interpretation of wanting and liking, because you want your prince, but sometimes you don't like him. Then you like him again, but you always want him somehow. So I think this twist was for me really interesting, to get deeper in desire, because the desire is really, it's an edgy
Yeah.
word somehow for me.
Right.
Uh, So there is some kind of want, but not always the like kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you said something very interesting, Joanna. As I was thinking when Lama said just a prayer moments ago, she said, even if the words, how we interpret what you want, what I want, what the desire for someone is, the words fail. So probably we would need to have a really specific definition for what desire means for each one of us, right?
Right. Right. So what does desire mean?
I mean, in this specific case, like the teachers at Deer Park says everything comes from self-grasping. So this desire is to preserve yourself. This desire, if you want a prince, you're gonna have a baby and preserve the species, or you're gonna be a woman that doesn't have enough money and that man's gonna support you. It's this kind of like self-preservation program
Right.
that
Right.
that all beings, not just humans, but all animals and all beings, plants, when the planet gets destroyed, then we evolve in order to adapt to it, and then, we're trying to preserve ourselves. And
Right.
this whole place is designed that way to
Right.
to survive and to preserve ourselves. But we also have the ability to override it and to recognize it. But it doesn't seem like very few people right now are going that way. But if we all are going to go that way someday, then theoretically we've already all gone that way. But it certainly doesn't feel that way sometimes because there is a real lack of kindness in order to survive. That's what it comes down to. It
Right.
makes us do things that are unkind in order to survive.
Right. Because of that mistaken understanding of what it is to survive, right? What it is to get our needs met that allows us to survive. We think, right, that survival is in getting the food for me. And that's the mistake. And yet when we say, no, your survival depends on giving your food to another. And right, Kachik goes, I will starve and I will die if I keep giving my food away. And that's the huge mistake. It's not true that if you keep giving your food away, you will die. It's like, yes, it is true. That could very well be your experience.
I mean, that's
Then,
the beginning of learning how to do an analysis. If you have a job, you'll get money, but some people have jobs and they don't make much money. Some people work hard and they have money. Some people don't work hard and they have money.
right,
So giving away the food is one way. I guess taking the food is another way. And we're not really open to doing an analysis that there could be other ways of reality and truth. And I
exactly.
don't know, maybe it just takes too much effort.
It does take too much effort. It's like swimming upstream, and it it takes time for the new seeds planted to ripen into a result that proves to ourselves that in fact other this way that of interacting with things that nobody else seems to follow is actually the most effective way of getting the happiness that we want. And it is a struggle. It's really hard. And when we start seriously trying, often things get worse before they get better. And that makes it even a bigger struggle. It's like, this can't be true because the kinder I am, the crappier things get. And it's like, hang in there, right? Hang in there. It's gonna shift. It's gonna shift. And it's like, well, how much longer? How much longer is it going to take? It's going to take until it does. And it's not satisfactory. And yet, when we apply the analysis again and again and again, once we have a glimpse of how things really work, even when we're like hitting our head against the brick wall trying to make it work and it doesn't work, it's like unsatisfactory to just go back to the old belief system, because that isn't working either, right? So we get into this limbo of like, oh man, how much more of this? It's difficult. It's very difficult. So thank you, Nagarjuna, for helping us see the different places where our mind's going to go. Yeah, but, and help us stay on track. Yes, Luisa.
Lama, I have a question, because if the if everything is coming from our seeds, then one could think then that the self nature or the lack of self nature is also a product of our seeds.
Correct.
Meaning, I could be a person who has the seeds to have things with a self nature, and then I will not be mistaken.
And
No?
when you interact with those things with this self nature, will they make you happy?
What I mean is, like, if I go to the other extreme, meaning, okay, we are saying that the reality is coming from us and not at us, and
Right.
that this fact is also coming from us, meaning this
That's correct.
law of this behavior, we created it that way. Then
Correct.
this
By
opens the
choice.
possibility to say, then I could have the seeds to not to be in a reality that is coming from me but at me. You know what I mean? Like, then that for me this doesn't apply, because I have other set of seeds that are creating the reality in a different way.
Then
You know what I mean?
you'd better rejoice, because not a lot of people get that, and you're getting it.
Right. Right.
No, what I mean is this possible? Because I struggle with the fact of there is no absolute truth, or not like this
Correct.
is the truth. And then
Correct.
if there is not, then that means I am creating this truth, meaning my truth can be completely different, meaning it can be that there is no emptiness, and there are no seeds, and there is no, right? I could be creating other reality.
And you are still creating it. So what you just said was, I could be creating a reality in which things are self-existent,
But I'm creating it. Yeah,
and you are still creating that.
Yeah, okay, that's true. Yeah, you are right. This is a contradiction.
So it would be coming from you that things are coming from their sides and can make me happy. And hallelujah, make it. But it's still coming from you.
And
Yeah, okay, so there is no way to say emptiness doesn't, how to say. For me, I believe in emptiness, meaning I believe this is the truth. But then when I listen to the teachings and so, then it triggers this thought of, but yet it's a creation of my mind.
Right.
So it loses a bit this kind of truth feeling, like I am doubting, but not doubting. I don't know if doubting is the right word. It's more like I am reflecting in the fact that if I am the one who is creating Lord Buddha, and who is creating the teachings, and who is creating the rules of the universe,
Right.
then I could also create other kind of rules.
Right. So, but when we're thinking, I create, we're having some sense of that meaning, I choose to create. And it's not about choice. It's not about deciding, I'm going to make the laws of karma be like this. Nobody did that. It's not, our creating things is not about choice. It's about behavior. Right? And that was created by us, but not by choice. It's not like we were sitting there and saying, I'm going to choose to create it in this way. But when we hear create, right, there's something in our mind that says, oh, so if I'm creating it, I can therefore create it any way I want. But not just by wanting it, not just by deciding. You have to create the causes for that.
Yeah, okay. But in any case, even if it's by creating the causes, then I will still be able to create it. Meaning I could say the law of karma is not that there is a time gap that I get things automatically. Like I could somehow change the law because it's coming from
your
me.
Behavior.
By changing my behavior,
the result. So it still proves that it's coming from behavior.
But then it's true that I could have another kind of reality.
Absolutely.
That is, I mean, that the laws of karma are not the ones that are being taught now.
No, because just to say that means we believe that the laws of karma are running the show. The laws of karma are explaining how things work. They're not running the show. There are explanations for how the show works.
Exactly, but if I change the show, the laws of karma are going to change because they are not going to.
How do you change the show?
By changing my behavior.
Right.
And then the laws of karma are going to be different because they are not. How not? If I change their behavior and then the reality changes accordingly, then the laws of karma are going to change because they only explain the reality.
Right. No. So you keep investigating. You'll see that when you say by changing my behavior, I change my reality, that shows how the laws of karma work.
Okay, yeah, true. Okay, I'm going to cook it.
Good job.
Thank you.
So if there's somebody who's there with no desire and then has desire, as Roxana said, they had to have had the desire even when they didn't experience the desire in order for desire to come up later. So desire would have to exist since there would exist someone who felt the desire when we're feeling the desire. And if there's nobody who feels the desire, how can there be any desire? Right? So, we did triple berry pie. Do I want triple berry pie before there's triple berry pie? Technically, I want triple berry pie all the time. And then suddenly there's triple berry pie there. So did my desire make the triple berry pie show up? What happens to my desire when the triple berry pie is there? It goes from a default desire to an active desire. Well, that was triggered by the triple berry pie, right? It's like, well, but the desire was there already. It just increased by it being there. Yeah, but if you had never had triple berry pie in the first place, you wouldn't be desiring triple berry pie. What about before you didn't know triple berry pie? So it had to have been triggered by the first triple berry pie. And then because that was pleasurable, I want more, right? Janet's self-preservation. I want to preserve the me that likes triple berry pie, and the way I do that is by getting more of it. So if there's that last piece of triple berry pie, because everybody knows it's my favorite thing, everybody would certainly be happy with me eating the last piece, right? It would never occur to me to think maybe it's somebody else's favorite also. It's like, come on. That should be mine. Yes, Janet.
So this is a good example of desire that we don't understand enlightenment. I mean, but we want it. And
Good.
then we don't know how to get there because we don't understand it. This is
Right.
great. We don't understand it, but we still desire it.
Yeah.
So at some point we will understand it. But then the game will change.
It
In
will.
theory, we will be we will be helping kings by letting them kill us with blades of grass, evidently. And then there will be no bad karma because it's just our duty.
You got it. You got it. It's our compassion, right?
The compassion, there's the meditation in ACI 12, the compassion, regular compassion, compassion of parts, and compassion of emptiness. So that would be the compassion of emptiness, that
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. You're helping someone. That's really what's important.
Right. Right. And it helps a lot when you have this deep sense of not identifying with this thing anymore, knowing that the you subject side goes on, that it would like whatever happens to this thing doesn't matter really. It's not like your idea is, oh my gosh, I lose this thing, I'm going to spend eons in a hell realm before I get another human body. When your identity is with the subject side that goes, it doesn't really matter whether you've got this thing or not. So yes, if it would be helpful to someone for them to cut your head off with a blade of grass, you do it in a heartbeat. Because right, just the next you is someplace else helping somebody else in the way
He analyzed it first. He meditated on it, and then he
no
agreed.
doubt, right? No doubt. Let's take a break. Zoom the recording. Put on the share. Get back to root text. So again, we're reviewing. Sorry, we're going so slow. Joanna, would you give us 6.2b?
It's the same from either stage, whether the desire exists or doesn't exist, with the one who feels it.
Yeah, let's go ahead to 6.3.
It would be incorrect for the desire and the person who feels it to just grow together, because if it were that, they could not rely upon each other.
So he's doing the what comes first, the desire or the thing that we desire. And actually there's a third one, the one who has the desire, and the thing of the desire. And like, what comes first? If they all grow together, then that means there's a thing that is desirable in it from it already there. The me with the desire already there, the desire already there, and all of a sudden they all come together, and that's absurd, is what this verse is saying. Right? That's how we think things are, right? Some triple berry pie exists somewhere in the world, and I want it. And someday it and me will come together and I will get to satisfy that desire by enjoying that piece of triple berry pie. And then it will end and it will start all over again. Because there's some triple berry pie out there waiting for me to enjoy it. Is that true? Yes and no.
Lama, you sound like a triple berry pie addict.
I haven't had triple berry pie in a couple of years. So I'm one of those addicts that avoids. I had some triple berry jam recently. That was as good. I should do triple berry jam because I don't really like the crust. Okay, let's go on. Roxana.
As but a single thing, they could never exist in a state of being together. It would not be together with that alone. And how could it ever be that the two were perfectly separate? How could they ever exist in a state of being together?
Right.
I was thinking right now, for example, we do so many actions. Like, for example, somebody's funding for something, right? Because they have the desire to build homes for someone in need.
Right.
And you participate, you offer money, you help out, but you're continue planting the seeds for other people's to get their desires met, right? And continuously we're doing that.
Right.
Not consciously thinking that, oh, I'm going to get my desires met. Oh, I'm going to have everything that I need. I honestly don't do that. I just help out without expecting an outcome or a specific desire. I do it out of good heart because I care. But probably when the desire seed triggers, right? That's when you're gonna know if your seeds had ripened by either you get your desire met, or not. Because just so that I don't want a new car. I have already a car, but if I were to say, oh, I just want that brand new 2025 model, and I just want it, I desired, I like it, I already know the color I want it, I already know with what specific components I want it. So I could be wanting it, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to get the result that I want by having it here in my home.
Right. Right. To even go and buy it and have it
Right.
may not actually satisfy the desire that you had when you were wanting it. That like it may be that the wanting it is actually more pleasurable than the having it.
Right.
Good
right.
point.
Welcome to dating.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was just thinking about Janet. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just thinking about this discussion we had earlier on also with Janet about the thing about enlightenment. Don't we all have the desire to get enlightened? So I want my desire met somehow. I mean, this is kind of ignorant liking, I know, but it's like a really high one. And I'm not in the place, like Roxana says, that I'm just not doing without expectation anything. I really expect that karma really works and it brings me some result, not worldly result, but some result in a higher way.
Right.
So I was just thinking about this kind of desire, like the spiritual one that we might have. I don't know.
Yeah, and
There I
Geshe,
really have expectation.
yeah, Geshe points out there's desire and there's ignorant desire. So it's not wrong to have desire. That's not what Nagarjuna is pointing out here. It's not wrong to have desire for continued existence. And it's what we're willing to do to get our desire met is where things go sour. And as we understand, is so Nagarjuna's investigation of desire would be helping us recognize that the thing that we think, the thing that we desire because we think experiencing it will bring us the pleasure. Right, the pleasure. And so really what we're desiring is that pleasure. And again, there's nothing wrong. It's not bad to desire pleasure. That's like pleasure goes to happiness. Happiness could be our constant state of mind. And then I lost my train of thought. So Nagarjuna is helping us investigate to find our belief and our automatic experience that my pleasure and so happiness comes from experiencing the thing. And he's saying that seems to be our experience. The thing causes my happiness, the thing causes my unhappiness, and everything in between. And let's see if we can prove ourselves wrong in that. Not to prove we shouldn't have desire, but to show us how to create the happiness that the desire is wanting. So that then anything that we experience could apparently be the source of happiness, as Louisa was pointing out. Right? Let's create a world where the happiness I feel really is in the thing. It won't ever really be in the thing, but the experience will be everything brings me happiness. Cut my head off with a blade of grass, feed me triple berry pie, bliss, all of it bliss, all of it happiness, all of it love, right? So our definition of happiness maybe needs to be reevaluated. It's like, I don't know that he has a chapter on happiness. But if Mama Christie did this once with us, she said, really think about in your life, find the happiest moment. Maybe the most pleasurable moment was, sitting on the beach watching a sunset. But was your happiest moment, was it something happening where you're all by yourself? Or was your happiest moment somehow involved with someone else and their happiness? And you're right, it helped me think about happiness, a state of mind of happiness, and whether it's really my own happiness that is where my happiness lies, or is it more the happiness of seeing someone else happy? Especially if you have or have had a small child, right? And when that small child is happy, like your heart just melts, right? And that love for them is a greater source of your own happiness than any experience that you could have that you would say that brings me happiness, right? It's their happiness that triggers that sense of love, and that sense of love is the happiness that we're really looking for, which is very different than I'm happy I have triple berry pie. So imagine being in that state of like bubbling over with love for others because of others' happiness all the time. Might be getting a little closer to what we mean by a Buddha state of mind. Did we read 6.45? I've forgotten now. Let's read it again because I need to hear it again. Who's up? Janet.
As but a single thing, they could never exist in a state of being together. It would not be together with that alone. And how could it ever be that two were perfectly separate? How could they ever exist in a state of being together?
Got it? If the thing and if the me and the thing I desire and the desire all have their own existence, then you don't need to bring them together, right? They can't actually come together, because by coming together, they would lose their individual existence. Now they're a thing that's together. And if they're completely separate, right, why would you need to bring them together? Desire doesn't exist in that way. Yes, Roxana.
For example, the word maturity, you mature, is it like kind of synonymous to wisdom? Because, for example, probably at our younger age, we would desire so many things. And now that we're older, right? We don't desire those things either because we have our needs completely satisfied,
Yeah.
or we understand where they're coming from, right?
Right.
But for example, there's people who do not have all their needs met, and they desire things. They
Right.
desire a nice home. They desire to be fed 3 times a day, or at least once a day.
Right.
They desire so many things. So they're continuing planting the cycle of wanting and wanting and wanting because of their lack of wisdom, or of their behavior in the past of not sharing or helping
Yeah.
others.
Yeah. I remember a meditation I did once for one of our Bok Jimpa classes that had to do, I think it was actually our Nagarjuna class, about wanting and liking. And in this meditation, I had this deep, deep insight that I can't quite get a hold of. But because of this growing glimpse into the profound dependence, the marriage of karma and emptiness, it became clear to me that I can't verbalize it. When you I can't verbalize it. Sorry, it's gone.
It's okay.
Can't share it.
Here, what we're trying to understand is the desire of the self-grasping with our senses, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then there is another desire, like for example, when we do our mandala and we're offering a pure world, I really desire a pure world.
Because we think we don't have it. Because we think the impure world that we're in is in it from it, and it's always going to be that way.
Okay.
And so, yes, we interact with our impure world, believing it's an impure world from its own side that we need to transform. And that actually perpetuates the misbelief, doesn't it? Even as we're trying to purify it by burning it off and planting our seeds differently, we still have the belief that it's an impure world from its own side.
But that's because this place is a functional thing, changing thing. Things are
Right.
always changing. You can't stop a functional thing is a changing thing. You can't, if you have the pie, it's going to be gone and then you have to get more pie. That's just
Right.
the nature of this place.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
if you don't have it, somebody will have it.
Right. Right. Yes, Joanna.
I'm really struggling with this one thought about the desire to feel good.
Mhm.
So, because sometimes I think I fool myself by doing something good to someone other, telling myself I want them to be happy, but actually it makes me feel good. So I'm doing it for them. I know it's a good result, it's a good thing to do, but how strong am I driven by my desire to feel good by doing good?
Wisely.
It's
That's wise desire. That's exactly
Is it
what
why?
we're doing.
Okay. So this one would be okay.
Yes.
Mm,
Yes.
mm,
Again, our Nagarjuna is not saying, look, desire is wrong, desire is bad, or there's no such thing.
mm,
Do you see our minds go, oh, desire has no nature, so there's no such thing really. No, desire drives the whole show. Desire for happiness. Wise desire is taking that desire for happiness and turning it on to some other.
mm,
Um,
mm. Thank you.
yeah. And ignorance says, if I turn my effort to getting happy onto somebody else's getting happy, I lose. Ignorance says I lose when I give something away. Wisdom says we both win when I give something away, because we don't really give it away, do we? Really, we're sharing it. Yeah. Six 6.6. Who's up? Let's start again, Janet. 6.6.
Suppose they were distinct and also together. Are you saying then that the pair of desire and the one who feels it, are perfectly distinct from one another, given that these two would be together?
Yeah, again, it's like if they exist independent of each other, why do you need to bring them together? And if they exist independent of each other, you couldn't bring them together, right? Because to bring them together, they both have to change in some way. And then they're dependent on the other to change in that way. And that means they're not distinct from each other. So if they are distinct, they can't interact. And if they are distinct, you don't need them to interact. But we do interact. Are me and my desire and the thing that I think triggers it, they all interact. Don't they? They have to. But then to say, don't they? They have to. It implies that there are things there that interact. And he says, look, that's impossible. But that's my experience, Nagarjuna. He goes, right. Right and wrong. Let's go on. Joanna.
Suppose desire and the one who feels it were perfectly distinct from one another. Why then would you ever imagine these two in a state of being together?
Yeah, saying the same thing from a different perspective. Roxana. Sorry, I can't get a hang of this.
If they were distinct from one another, they could be none. And suppose that, to arrive at this, you instead assert that they are together as a single thing. And to truly prove that they were a single thing, wouldn't you assert that the two were distinct? But because they cannot exist as entities that are distinct, they neither can they be an entity together.
Right. So he's just reinforcing, right? Back to you, Janet.
We would have to say that any entities which existed as distinct from one another existed as entities which were together.
All right, go ahead with 610, please.
Thus, it is that the two of desire and the person who feels it cannot exist either as things together or as things which are not together.
And let's go on. Go ahead, Janet.
Just as with desire, there are no other things which can exist as together or not together. Here ends the 6th chapter of wisdom, the investigation of desire and the one who feels it.
So there's no desire. Is his conclusion? No. There's no one who feels desire? Is his conclusion? No. There's no nature of desire. There's no thing called desire that's hanging out somewhere that I then suddenly feel. And there's no me hanging out somewhere who suddenly then bumps up against this thing desire and feels desire. Is there no me that feels desire? No. Is there no desire that I feel? No. Yes, I feel desire. But not any desire or me with desire with their own natures. Thus it is that the two of desire and the person who feels it cannot exist either as things together nor as things which are not. It happens as a subject-object interaction between experience ripening result of past behavior, we know the punchline. Thank goodness we know the punchline. And then just as with desire, there are no other things which can exist as together or not together. I think he's talking about the object of desire here, because mainly the chapter was looking at the me and the desire that comes up, not so much the triple berry pie, but the feeling, me and desire. So let's look at chapter 7. Suppose that the starting were a produced thing, then it must be that this as well possesses the 3 characteristics, which I think is starting, stopping, staying. And suppose the starting was never produced, how then could it be a defining characteristic? It could not ever be. So somehow our Kachik goes from, what? You're saying the me and the desire that I feel doesn't really happen? Like, is that our conclusion? Where he says, look, the two of desire and the person who desires it, they can't exist as one thing and they can't exist as 2 separate things. Right? What's our conclusion? Oh, so they don't exist at all. Because that's the only 2 ways something can exist. 2 things together or 2 things separate. How else can they be? Right? So ignorant conclusion to chapter 6 is, what? You're saying there's no me, there's no desire? Or does our Kachik say, well, Nagarjuna, I do so go from a being who doesn't have desire to having desire. My desire starts at some point. Maybe that's what our Kachik said. But he goes into this chapter on looking for the moment that something starts, looking for the moment that something ends. So I would guess it would be looking for the moment that the desire starts. For something to start, it has to be produced, right? Something has to start the start. Do you remember that? The start of the start of the start of the start. Mama Christie's chapter was so fun. Well, what started it? Suppose that the starting were a produced thing. It has to be a produced thing, doesn't it? Then it must as well possess the 3 characteristics. Starting, staying, stopping. And suppose the starting was never produced. How then could it be a defining characteristic? It could never be. So remember, a defining characteristic means how we recognize something is there. So the start of desire would have to be part of what defines desire being there, is it has to start, right? So let's go ahead. We'll start in. We've got a few minutes yet. I forget where we left off. Let's start at the top again. Janet, 7.2a and b, please.
It's not that the three of starting and so forth can individually act as defining characteristics for produced things? And how could it be correct to say that these convened in a single one at a single time?
Joanna.
Starting and staying and stopping possesses as things to be defined, characteristics which define them as produced entities. It would have to be endless. And if they don't, they cannot be produced things.
Okay. Are we following him?
Was this when does the starting start? When does the starting stay? When does the starting stop? And then cycle
Right.
around in that? Okay.
Right. Like if starting is something that has its own characteristics that has to apply to my desire, for me to feel the desire, then the starting itself has to have a starting, staying, and stopping, because that's what functioning things do.
Can we take a synonymous functioning thing with a working thing?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then Roxana, 7.4, please.
The starting of the starting functions to start. Only the original starting, and then the original starting. So God knows when that started.
At least somebody knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's more. Start
Okay.
again. Here's the
Okay.
top of the verse. It goes down to here.
Okay. The starting of the starting functions to start. Only the original starting. And then the original starting acts in to turn to start. The starting of the starting. So it already started.
Right?
Right. I did understand. Yes.
Janet.
Suppose your starting of the starting acted to start the original starting. How could it be then that it, yet to start, acted to start this? How could it be? And if you say that the original acts to start, and that starts the original, how can an original which that had yet to start act to start? Just suppose that something that hadn't started yet had the power to act to start that. Your idea of those in the act would have to depend on asserting that these were acting to start. Is it the chicken or the egg?
Yeah, right.
The chicken or the egg? What
Chicken
came
or the
first?
egg?
What do we eat? Do we eat the egg or the chicken?
I need an answer to that. What came first?
Of thinking of who was the original me who started the Nagarjuna thinking.
Right. Who started ignorance?
Right.
It's crazy, isn't it? I really love that series of verses. I can't imagine it in Tibetan and Sanskrit. I mean, I can. I've seen it, but I don't, right? I can't imagine understanding it. Right? We get a grasp of what he's saying, right? Something has to start the start, and it's endless. So how does it ever work? When does it ever happen?
Is this the
But it
Kachik?
doesn't.
Is this the Kachik talking? He's asking what came first? Or is this Nagarjuna?
I think it's Nagarjuna pointing out to Kachik who
Oh, the starting.
believes that there's a moment my desire starts, and so it has to have some nature of its own. It would have been easier if Nagarjuna had said chicken or egg, chicken or egg. Joanna, 7.8, please.
A butter lamp functions to illuminate itself and other objects. Starting 2 functions to start both itself and other objects.
This is Kachi. No, Nagarjuna, come on. The start starts itself and what comes next. Just like a butter lamp illuminates itself and everything in the room. Roxana.
There is no darkness in areas where the lamp is standing. And so how can we say that the butter lamp works to eliminate those? How could you say that a lamp in the act of starting, conveying this clearing away the darkness, were such a thing? In the moment that the lamp is in the act of starting, it never makes contact with the darkness. And suppose a lamp standing here could ever clear away the darkness located in all the worlds that there are, for it wouldn't function to clear away the darkness.
Do you remember that? I remember that discussion. It's like, if turning on the lamp clears away the darkness, why doesn't one lamp clear away all darkness? Why does it just clear away some darkness if it's in fact what clears away darkness? And then does it happen in the first moment that the light turns on? Or does it happen after the light's turned on that the darkness is cleared away? Does in fact the light clear away darkness?
It's curious. This morning, my tea, it had a little label, and it says, it's not the lamp that gives the light. It's the light that brings the awareness to the world. It was something like that. Yeah.
That's good. It's even the light that defines the lamp, right?
Right.
Is the lamp a lamp when it's shut off? Yes. But is it doing what lamps do, lighting the room when it's shut off? No.
Just an object.
It's just an object. Uh-oh, we missed a line. Oh, we need to go back and do the whole thing. Okay, Roxana.
There's no darkness in areas where the lamp is standing. And so how can we say that the butter lamp works to illuminate those? How could you say that a lamp in the act of starting, conveying this clearly away of darkness, were such a thing? The moment that the lamp is in the act of starting, it never makes contact with the darkness. And suppose a lamp standing here could ever clear away the darkness located in all the worlds that there are, for it would function to clear away that darkness while never making contact.
That adds a little bit more. Does the light touch the darkness that it appears to clear away? Darkness is absence of light. How can the presence of something touch an absence? I think we're going to use that argument later. And so here it's a little more tangible way to look at that. Darkness isn't a thing to be cleared away, is it? Wait, yes, it is. It's dark, I can't see. I turn on a light, I can see. Something's been cleared away. Some obstacle's been cleared away. But the darkness wasn't a thing there. It's just the absence of light. Janet, 7.12, please, since we've got a few more minutes.
Suppose a butter lamp could function to illuminate itself and other objects. There's no question that the darkness as well would have to obscure itself and other objects.
Aha, remember that argument? If darkness obscures itself, what happens?
You can't see the darkness.
You can't see the darkness. So is there light there? Who would think of that but Nagarjuna? So does that mean if we apply our ignorance to our ignorance, it will reveal wisdom? If our ignorance obscures ignorance, doesn't seem like that would work, would it?
Everything's possible, dear Lama. Pure potential. We might. Yeah, how could
Spoken
you?
as a person who's seen emptiness directly.
Revealing herself. All right, we'll stop here. I'm going to make myself a note. I make myself notes and then I lose my notes. Our Nagarjuna 7.13. There. Fun. So what did we learn? Desire and the one who desires happen, but not the way we think.
For example, what did I learn? You ask.
Yeah.
For me, it's trying to identify my selfishness when I desire something. It's like if I want to trigger it, if I want to perpetuate it, or how do I want to work with it?
Yeah,
Those
good.
three spheres, how they interact, the experience with it, for me, it's very important.
Yeah.
And I was thinking of different scenarios where I'm selfish, where I'm generous, when I'm kind, so many different things. So the desire will continue arising until I have the wisdom to really approach it differently.
Right. Right. And then it will still arise, but your definition of it will be different. I think rather than desire, we'll call that feeling love. We'll call that feeling like it'll be outgoing instead of incoming, right? Our desire usually makes us feel like this. And when wise desire is happening, I think it feels like this.
Intelligent wanting.
Right? Wanting.
Would be
Intelligent wanting instead of
Intelligent.
intelligent regret.
Right.
I think equanimity would be the word for me,
Yeah.
because what I want for me, I would want for others the same.
Yes, nice. Yeah, good. Nice. Nice. So remember that one, we wanted to be able to help at the beginning of class. We did plant seeds that we will use sooner or later to help them in that deep and ultimate way. And that's a great, great goodness. So please be happy with yourself. And think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy being. See how happy they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to help you, guide you, inspire you, and then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good, we want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it by the power of the goodness that we've just done. May all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person. To share it with everyone we love. To share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with happiness, filled with wisdom, filled with loving kindness, regardless of what appears to be going on around them. And may it be so. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for your insights.